Hey guys, short one for today. I have some quick tips for all you new Mini 3 Pro flyers out there, especially if this is your first drone. This video is geared more towards new flyers, but sometimes even seasoned pilots can use a reminder. If you're currently flying a Mini 3 Pro with the new RC remote, perhaps you have experienced issues with poor range and possibly even a remote disconnection or two. It seems that some, but not all, Mini 3 Pro owners are having issues with poor signal transmission. As it turns out, I am one of those people. Now, I'm dead serious when I say this. My remote disconnected on my very first flight with the Mini 3 Pro.
It's doing a return to home because I lost connection to the remote.
So of course I followed up with some testing, and sure enough, yeah, I'm having poor range issues. Over subsequent flights, I have probably accumulated more remote disconnections with this drone and this RC remote than all of my other drones combined. To be honest though, many of the disconnections resulted from me intentionally pushing things, but still, it's not great and I'm not getting very good range at all. I'm confident DJI is working on the problem and I expect to see a permanent fix soon, so personally I'm not too worried about it. However, if you are experiencing the issue, Sean from Air Photography has a potential workaround that may help you, and I put a link in the description so you can go check it out. Now, this video is not about the transmission issue. This video is about what happens when the remote disconnects from your drone and why you shouldn't panic. I hope these tips I'm about to share will ensure a good outcome for you should you experience a remote disconnection with your Mini 3 Pro.
Not scary?
I trust the technology.
When my remote disconnected from my brand new and quite expensive Mini 3 Pro, I didn't panic because of something called Failsafe Return to Home. By default, if the drone loses connection to the remote for more than 3 seconds, the drone will automatically execute a return to home and come back to the last recorded home point. If your home point was set accurately on takeoff and you haven't changed your location during flight, the drone is going to come back to your position and will likely even reconnect to the remote as it gets close. So potentially you have nothing to worry about. But if you launched your drone and zipped off before the home point got set, or you're like me and you tend to wander around while flying, your home point may not accurately reflect your current location. And then later during the flight, if the drone disconnects from the remote, executes a fail-safe return to home, and goes back to some location where you are not, there is the potential for a not so great outcome. Now, instead of getting into a potentially panicky situation like that, all you need to do is update your home point, which is very simple to do. Just go into Settings, go to Safety, and scroll down until you see Update Home Point. Clicking on that will bring up a map of your current location, and from there you have 3 options. You can set the home point to be the current location of the drone, the remote, or just touch and drag the home point to any place on the map. Once you have made your selection, just click OK and the home point will be updated. You can update the home point at any time, so don't be shy. Just go ahead and update it as many times as you need. Now, another thing you should pay attention to is return to home altitude. This is the altitude that your drone will ascend to during a return to home if it is more than 50 meters away and its altitude is currently below the set return to home altitude. The default is 100 meters and is probably fine for most folks, but it is something to be aware of depending on where and how you fly. The return to home altitude can be set by tapping on the system status bar or by going into Settings, Safety, and tapping on Auto Return to Home Altitude. And finally, one last tip. If we go back into Settings, Safety, and choose Advanced Safety Settings, there are a few additional options for a lost signal situation. By default, if the signal is lost between the drone and the remote, the drone will automatically perform a return to home. However, there are 2 other options, Descend and Hover. Hover might be a good choice if you're flying from a moving object like a sailboat or a car. In that situation, it may not be practical to continuously update the home point. It may be better to have the drone hover in place and wait for you to come back to it. The other option, descend, seems like a bit of an edge case to me, but I guess if you're flying at high altitudes with the potential for strong winds, maybe it makes sense to have the drone descend rather than being pushed further away by the wind. For me personally, I always leave it set to the default of return to home, but that may be different for you depending on how and where you fly. And one final thought, this is certainly not a deep dive into Failsafe Return to Home. It's more of a quick heads up. So I strongly recommend that you go and read the section in the Mini 3 Pro user manual dedicated to Return to Home. And that's it for this one, guys. Just a quick reminder to keep that home point updated if you're changing positions while flying your drone. It's a simple thing, but it could definitely be a drone saver while we wait for DJI to sort out the transmission issues with the new RC remote. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and you guessed it, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.